that.
All right, did you see this story? Broke yesterday about the IHSA. Big top news here. Ryan Burrow was very interested in this yesterday. Apparently must have played. Did you play high school ball?
Do I look like I played high school football? No, I did not.
All right. The IHSA announced that member schools have voted to eliminate full pad drills from summer football practices effective immediately. The vote bans full pad and full contact drills during the summer practice period. That's a 25-day time frame in which coaches may instruct their players. Change will require 2 days of helmet-only practices, but afterward, only shoulder pads may be added for the rest of the summer practice period. Any week-long hiatus will require 2 more days of helmet-only practices before resuming the use of shoulder pads. What does this mean to the coaches? What does this mean to the legacy of all those guys who played high school football? They're all complaining about this. Kurt Becker, East Aurora High School. Of course, you remember Kurt Becker from his days in the NFL, specifically with the Chicago Bears. Coach, what do you think this means?
How are you today, gentlemen?
Very well.
Good. There's a lot here. Basically what I think the IHSA has broken it down to, and they defined, or trying to define, of what type of practice they'd like to see during the summer sessions. And if you read the way it's written, it's pretty much that, they're going to allow full pads, but they really don't want full speed contact tackling drills taking players to the ground. And that's pretty much the gist of it.
Well, Kurt, the thing is, though, as you very well know, if you can only have kind of like half contact, if you can only kind of wrap around, you can't go full speed, which, I would think that that's going to hinder timing as well when quarterbacks are trying to work out, pass patterns with receivers and things like that. If you can't go full speed, you can't go full speed.
Well, at some point during practice in your preparation of the season, you do have to go full speed. And now they've just narrowed it down to that 2-week session, which is prior to your first game. So timing, is a little different. I mean, the biggest area that really is going to be affected is the tackling area. They defined how you can practice and how you can play. They say players can go against air, which means you can run plays against nobody and you just go through the motions. Players can run plays against bags. That's soft bags, so you can have helmets, shoulder pads, thigh pads, knee pads on. You can hit bags at full speed. And then the gray area comes where they say you can run your drills, and instead of tackling a player, you can just wrap the player, which means, okay, it's kind of like tag, right?
Right.
And then the last thing is they say you can have thud football. Thud football is you can go full speed, and you can hit the opponent full speed, but you can't take them to the ground.
Well, wouldn't that impact more often than not result in the guy hitting the ground?
Well, football's a competitive sport. So how do you keep it within the parameters of what they're trying to describe?
And also the idea that, the head injuries are often a result of rapid deceleration. And that means hitting a wall, essentially. And whether you're being taken to the ground or you're just being hit quickly, I mean, I don't know that actually solves the issue here. Here's the other thing I'm confused about. So you can do bag drills, put guys in pads and do bag drills, but you can't have them hit other guys in pads.
You can have them hit other guys in pads. You can stay on your feet and have full contact.
But what about this 25-day time frame in which coaches cannot wear full pads? Is it full pad and full contact, or just full contact?
Well, there's a period of you got to go helmet only for the first couple days.
Yeah,
and then you can go helmet shoulder pads, which pretty much the majority of the people that are out there coaching spend their summers in helmets and shoulder pads. Very few teams, I think, would really be in full contact, full football drills through the summer. But what they did is, they define the rules, and this is how they want us to practice in the summertime.
Kurt, what about when it comes to evaluating talent, especially probably more so at the freshman and sophomore level? Because as you well know, you got guys who look really good in helmet and shoulder pads. Some kids don't like to get hit, and some guys can absorb a hit a lot better, and some guys on defense love to hit, and you can't really get a full flavor of that until you're really going full out, right?
You're absolutely right. I mean, kids can look like Tarzan, and they play like Jane when the pads come on, and as soon as the contact starts happening, kids figure out that maybe this is not for them.
Yeah.
So it does, limit the amount of time that you have to, look at the talent you have on your squad. But I think, we are like kind of, high schools are like following the college models nowadays. And so everything seems to come down from the NFL down to the college level, now to the high school level. And it's all about concussions.
Yeah.
And that's what, they're really trying to limit and protect. But there's some other things that, I think the state could do that could really improve the game. And one thing they could do is they could let us have practices in the springtime, spring football. Give us 10 to 12 practices, and other states do it. A lot of the states in the South do it, and Southwest do it. And the reason being is that the college recruiters are now off campus and have the ability to visit high school. So in Illinois, when they want to come and look at a high school football player in the spring, they'll either have to watch the kid play baseball or run track. They can't see them do football skills like they can in other states. So
let me just ask you about, aside from recruiting here, how is this going to, do you think, will it negatively affect, and you can speak not even for yourself at East Aurora, but for all the coaches in the IHSA, is it going to be harder for you guys to prepare your teams with these new rules?
Yes, it is.
And no question about that.
They limit the amount of time. There's that period when fall starts that you have to spend 2 days in helmets only, and then 3 days in helmet shoulder. Then you're limited, like there's only 14 days of practice. And there's not 2-a-days anymore, if you recall, as they say in the old days, when they used to have 2-a-days.
Oh, yeah.
They don't have 2-a-days anymore. So they just give you a little more time. So they've really limited the amount of practice time, and they're really legislating, the amount.
I think this is going to hurt kids coming out of Illinois. I mean, this is Illinois is one of the few states to start with this. This may spread around the country, but do you think this is going to hurt Illinois recruits that are competing against kids from Ohio and Pennsylvania and Iowa and other big-time high school recruiting fertile grounds?
Well, I think when you look at the national picture, like I said, we're limited now because we don't have spring football.
Right.
And so
beyond that, do you think this will continue hindering that?
Yes, because, you're taking away the amount of practice, the amount of repetitions that our kids get. And when you do that, you practice, your football skills don't get developed. So, we need as much practice time as possible to help, prepare our kids so they can compete at that national level.
Yeah. Coach, thanks very much. Appreciate it. Kurt Becker, East Aurora High School, but also former Chicago Bear. Thanks, Kurt. Appreciate your time, man.
No problem. Thank you.
All right. Coming up, golly, the pedicab. The pedicab may have to go out of business. You know what the pedicab is?
I know it's pedicab driver is, but what's the pedicab?
The pedicab is the only thing worse than the horse-drawn carriage. Yeah. Some parents want to comment at 591-8900 on the change in football by the Illinois High School Association, which is changing the way that kids can go to practice, trying to take a lot of the contact out of the practices. You can have, they have now restrictions on the use of pads during practice and the use of and hitting during practice. Right. Some coaches are going to do it anyway, even though it's against the rules. I don't tell anybody.
Maybe to put them in those big inflatable suits people rent out for state fairs and stuff, like the big sumo suits.
Yeah.
Just crack into each other with those. We lost Gunderson. He's over on the track and field now.
Jimmy Fallon football is what that will be called. Amy, you're on WLS. Hello, Amy.
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
I was just calling in. I listened to what the East Aurora coach had to say, and one of the, when I first heard this, the first thing I thought was the bigger issue. I mean, believe me, I'd love to see these kids be able to compete on a national level. And I think, we obviously have a lot of kids who can. But my first thought was, I think that it's going to take a lot of the safety away from the sport because they're not getting the repetitions in order to be safe. And that's the whole point of putting pads on these kids so early. And that's what kills me is that IHSA thinks they're putting this rule in place to keep the kids safer. And I think that's crazy. Now you're going to put them in a position where they're waiting until, August to even put the pads on. They're not going to be conditioned well with the pads on. They're not going to have the repetitions with the pads on. And ultimately, I think more kids are going to end up getting hurt.
Well, I mean, I think you make a great point. That's one of the things we were talking to Kurt Becker about. It's impossible to go full speed and wrap around someone and not knock them to the ground. You're not really going full speed. And that kind of pulling up thing, not only will you're absolutely right about once there is game speed about more injuries, but it's also the kind of thing where if you keep pulling up like that, you keep trying to go 3/4 speed, you're going to pull muscles. It's just not a natural way for your body to perform.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And I have a son who's going to be a senior next year. And I just think that it's asinine that they're going to do something like that. I mean, it is what it is. They're going to do it. And these coaches, unfortunately, are going to have to figure out how to do it. But, I think that's going to be the end product of it. And what are they going to do next? Just take away football? It's crazy. It's just nuts. But unfortunately, they're not going to figure this part of it out in time. Who knows?
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest problems here is that this year is going to be kind of a mess. And I feel badly for seniors who are going to be college football scholarship eligible.
Right.
Who, may start getting overlooked, or they may miss a program. If it's a difference between, some kid going to Michigan out of, why would I even say that as an Ohio State fan? My God, what the hell was that? But going through, that was weird. And I just said that is like a self-hating statement on my part.
Shocker.
But, or some kid, has got an opportunity to go to a major program and may miss it because he's coming out of Illinois where the kids may not be performing at the same, at the same level. And that's, until you can get this sort of across the board. And listen, the one question I didn't want to ask Kurt Becker, which is the scariest question, is what is football going to look like at the high school level in 5 years?
Yeah.
Right.
They may take tackle away at the high school level. And
exactly. We'll just have flag football.
Right. And flag football, and you might end up having, and then the NFL, what are they going to do? And then all of a sudden you've taken this golden goose, and listen, you need to protect these guys. They're gladiators. They are modern gladiators. And the game is different. If you ever watch ESPN Classic Game, it sounds like you do. And you watch, these, I love the old college games, especially. ESPNU runs them all the time. And you get to watch like Ohio State, Michigan from, 1978 or something like that. There's Woody Hayes spitting teeth out of his head. And the speed of the game is different now. And the speed of the game in college is different, and the speed of the pros, oh my gosh. I mean, that is a total, you watch those old Super Bowls and stuff, it's a different kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Right. And my dad even said, I was talking with my dad about this morning, and he even said, what are we going to do? Go back to the days where there were no pads and leather helmets? And we can't even go back to that because of what you just said, because the speed of the game has changed so much, you can't do that.
Right.
And then do we start examining every other sport in just a similar manner? I mean, I've got, they talk about football being the one where the concussions happen and the injuries happen. And, what about basketball and baseball and soccer? I've got a niece who is college bound, going to play soccer in college, and, she's got a concussion because she.
Soccer actually has a very, very,
absolutely.
It has the second highest concussion rate. The third highest concussion rate, hockey being in terms of players. But all right, Amy, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Amy. I don't want to play your family in any kind of softball game at a 4th of July picnic. I'm feeling that she might have picked up a bat or two and gone to right at the line drive double too. I was talking about full pads with my dad. My niece is going to college. My son hits hard.
I like it. I
love her.
But that's
I love
the thing. Is that, this is what the high school and college athletics is all about. It's great for the kids. It keeps them out of all kinds of other issues. And you do want to protect people. You don't want to have this kind of, this spate that you've got in these guys who end up in the NFL, NHL too, but in the NFL specifically, where the average life expectancy for a guy who played in the NFL is 56 years old. I mean, there do need to be some changes, but this is, if you're gonna make the changes, you're probably going to destroy the sport forever.